All right, Mario. So let's talk a little bit about how people just need to chill a little bit about the Scudetto still being in our hands. We own our own destiny by 5 games still. We just still need 5 more wins, and there's a ton of games left. I ain't worried one little bit, and I can't believe that there's fans out there that actually are talking about the fact that is this the start of a losing streak. That blows my mind that people would even say that, but Lazio, Milan, Roma, Atalanta, they all won. The only teams that lost in the top six was us and Inter. And it's crazy to me that Inter just yesterday, it seems like, was in second place and they're 5 points off second now. Is that crazy?
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so crazy. Wow.
They are fighting for their Champions League lives and
Wow.
they were in seconds. Like
Damn.
we were worried about them more than anybody else at one point of the season, and now they're like I think 20 points back of us. About it's I
You wanna know
think
what's
19
crazy?
or something.
That's what makes Milan and Inter like even like scarier because you don't know what they're gonna do against you. You know, like they can be who they are, or they can just be out of form, out of shape, like crazy. You don't know what side is gonna come up against you. It's nuts. That's why I don't really pay attention to the Serie A table, like for UCL matches, for instance. I don't care. We know what they're capable of. But
So
damn,
this is off subject a little bit, but you just made me think about it when you mentioned other teams. They had a Coppa Italia game last night. Did you see what happened
yeah, I
with
did.
at the end of the game and the red cards and the stupid ass monkey chants and shit? Did you see any of that?
Sure did. What else
Oh
is new?
man. Well, I mean, he Inter tied at the very end. I don't know. I thought it was a little funny how that happened, and then everything else just turned out to be stupid shit. And the ref giving Lukaku a red card
Yeah, he
for
gave him another yellow
reacting.
for excessive celebration. And then he already had a yellow. He gave him another
Oh,
yellow for a red.
he got a yellow card. I thought he got a straight red.
But it's still bullshit though.
Yeah,
Regardless,
incredible, man. And then like Cuadrado going at
Cuadrado loves to be the most
allegations.
hated player on the field, huh? He just loves to be that guy. You score a goal, you have an opportunity to shine a little bit to win the game, and there you are, being you again, getting kicked off the
I
fucking
think,
field for who knows what, for talking
yeah,
back
man.
to Blacko about what he did when he was
That
damn
dude,
right.
like, he's always involved in some drama, man. They showed like at the end when the players were getting ready to go back in the locker room that a bunch of them ran into the locker room. So I think stuff was going on in the locker room too, but I haven't really read anything to
Lukaku
see if
was
anything
telling
was really
Cuadrado
going on.
to come to the locker room if he wants to talk about it, but he was not willing to do that. It's a big guy. It's a
Anyway,
big,
that was off subject for a little bit. I just thought we mentioned that because
yeah.
I watched the end of that game last night, and
Still dues.
yeah, it was crazy. Do you think that with 5 wins left is what the magic number is right now, right? They need 5 wins. And obviously for them now to clinch in Torino, other teams are gonna have to. I think Lazio is our only real worry at this point, if there is a worry. Do you think Lazio could still lose some points and Napoli could still have a
Yes.
chance to clinch in Torino? Yeah.
Easily. I mean, we see how inconsistent Serie A teams have been in general this season, not including Napoli, obviously, because 3 losses are not nothing to laugh about. That's not inconsistency. But yeah, Lazio could lose damn near 3 games in a row if they wanted to. Like anything can happen. So that's why I'm not really worried about Serie A. I haven't worried for weeks now, to be honest. If I'm being honest with you, I've not been worried for weeks. Uh,
Yeah, me neither,
I'm
man.
worried
Yeah.
about UCL though. So we'll see how that goes.
Let's get into the next part of our Napoli news segment that isn't going to be the most fun to talk about, but we do need to talk about a little bit. There was some stuff that I saw in the stadium. I went outside the stadium before and saw what I wanted to see with the ultras, but from the minute I sat down in the Curva next to Michele Borelli from Get Napoli Tickets, and he's one of the hosts of the In the Shadow of Vesuvius podcast. If you haven't listened to that podcast out there, please do because it's extremely informative about the whole Utra situation, and he gives you a little bit of history about the relationship between him and Laudintis, or between the Utras and Laudintis, and It's very interesting. So make sure that you do go take a listen. And earlier, Mario, tonight, I was on Napoli Talk just for a little bit, pretty much just to provide an emotional aspect of what I saw during that match, both before and during and after. And I really don't know a lot about the ins and outs. I was just there to give an emotional reaction to what I saw. But let's get in and talk about the what the Ultras did and what it could mean for the rest of the season. And quite honestly, this is something that might actually affect the rest of how people cheer our team, you know? So the protesting that happened, Mario, was it was all geared towards being it was protest against Laurentis, right? And so we all know the relationship with the Ultras and Laurentis has never been a good one. It's something that just gets worse and worse, it seems like. But when you completely focus your chance to go against Laurentiis and you don't want to actually participate in cheering the team while they're playing in a big game against a big opponent, and then to top it off, you actually end up getting into fights. Who knows exactly why the fights happened, but they happened. It doesn't matter why, it just matters that they happened. It was just a very, very upsetting and depressing thing to see. It was the worst experience I've ever had watching a game at the Maradona. The loss was bad, 4-0. We got manhandled. But what made it really, really something that I'm never going to forget, unfortunately, is the way that the Ultras behaved both before, during, it was just, it was something that unfortunately I think is going to continue. Hopefully the fighting doesn't, but the protesting against Laurentiis is never going to go away. It's not. And it's a two-sided story. Some of the things that the ultras are protesting against, I think that if you don't understand it or if you don't agree with it, you should at least try to understand it. With the different restrictions that they've been having to deal with, especially comparing to other stadiums and the way that those ultras are treated, and then the ticket prices. There's reasons for them protesting, but they're just going about it the wrong way. I just think that if they want to do something, don't do it during the game. Do it outside the stadium. Maybe have one chant before the match starts. Maybe do something a little bit during halftime, but don't make it the focus of the match either. The focus of the match should be supporting our dudes because that's what we're supposed to be. Ma solo la maglia, unica fede. None of that shit was there. It was all just a fucking power trip and them trying to protest Versailles. And Mario, I'm glad you weren't there just so that you didn't have to witness it in person because it sucked. It really did. And unfortunately, it's sad because I don't think that this is just going to just simmer down or it's going to go away or it's going to get worse before it gets better. But one of the things that, I want to talk about a little bit about it is, do you feel like what happened with the fighting, do you feel like that it's fair to point any finger at ADL and say this is something maybe that you could have helped from happening?
Nah, people gotta grow the fuck up, man. Even if there's things like these restrictions that happen, just I don't know, just bullshit that happens to you. Why would you react in this way, in this manner? There's other ways to go about it. Do you not understand how you're so contradictive? Like you're protesting in the stadium that you're supposed to care for, the team you're supposed to support, and you're the fans of them, correct? So why are we taking the time out of supporting the team? That's what you should be using your time for there. But rather you're taking that time and protesting against, mind you, not even the team. It's towards the president. Who gives a fuck? You need to take your fucking pride to the side. Fucking do that elsewhere, bro. You can get attention do that elsewhere. You don't have to do it at the game. But y'all love that kind of attention. Y'all want to cause ruckus. You like that. A lot of humans like that. People in general. They don't want to admit it, but they do. That's why all those fights happen. Adrenaline rushes. People like to do that stuff. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, Napoli supporters are great, but there's always bad apples in every freaking case, bro. Always. Always. And just a couple of them can stir a whole lot more. Like you're gonna have a whole lot of rotten apple pie at one damn point. These guys have been protesting ADL for years now, and then honestly, now is the worst time to protest. We are a Scudetto winning team. What are we doing here? It's like we're like not grateful for what we have right now. Find a better time. There's really no other thing to say about this. Just find a better time. Protesting is okay. Non-violent as well. It can't be violent. There's no use in violently protesting. It doesn't do anything. It just causes more ruckus and riot. Just find the time. Not at the stadium where you're supposed to support your boys. Just not the time.
Supporting the players, I think we mentioned it in the first segment just a little bit, but I don't care what anybody says, man. When you're on the pitch and you are not getting the energy from the 12th man, which they're supposed to take so much pride from,
Exactly.
and you see that massive empty space created in the Curva, you know something terrible is going on. There's no way that players didn't notice that. And
No,
how
of
can you
course.
stay completely 100% focused on the match? And the Milan players, they absolutely noticed that too. And when they looked the opposite
Man,
direction,
did they stir that shit up? Doing this too with the Scudetto thing on there? Man.
and then but the other thing too is when they look opposite direction and they see their visitor section fired up, flags, banners, chanting, that made a difference in that match.
Of course. That's how it's
And
done. That's what fans do.
I'm Mari, you remember when we first were going to the games and in Distinti Superiore, where we used to usually sit, right? You remember in the middle, there was groups, whether they were ultras or they were just organized groups of people that were leading chants. They had flags, they had banners. That's went away. It's been gone
Yeah.
for several years now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I think it started when you no longer could sit wherever you wanted. So the fact that they couldn't organize that from the middle of the distincti because everybody had to sit where they were supposed to, that just disappeared. And
Right.
in the Curva, they tried that for a minute. Michele Borelli talked about it a little bit with Dom on Napoli Talk. So this is a little bit repetitive, but he talked about how they tried that for a minute and they ended up protesting and it ended up going away. But man, I think the culture of what makes it special to go to a Napoli game is fading. And it's super depressing for me because the biggest reason that we fell in love with going to the games was the atmosphere. That's what started it for us. You remember what it felt like going to that Champions League game versus Chelsea?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And things aren't like that anymore. I mean, just look at that game and that atmosphere and that
I don't
era
know. I mean,
and
I think the atmosphere is still high and the passion is still there. I just think you're feeling a little bit nostalgic as well because I do see what you mean. But also, whenever these things were happening, uh, it was a while since it's happened or never, right? Like with Champions League, like we were brand new to this thing. We're kind of getting used to Champions League. Sometimes these emotions, when you get used to things, they don't become as intense or as glorified because we take advantage of it. We take it for granted. Same thing's happening to Napoli. As you become a bigger club, you'll notice these super diehard fans. They're not as lackluster. They're not as motivated per se, but they still love their team. But when you go to UCL every year, damn near, and you're used to it, you just start to act a little different. You take things for granted. It's just human nature. But the passion's still there. The atmosphere is still there. You're just thinking like it was definitely a lot better for sure in the past. But mind you, we were in a completely different situation. Like, let me tell you, when we raised that Scudetto, whatever me and you have experienced in these past years, it'll feel nothing like that. Like seeing the city
Oh yeah.
celebrate, nothing will feel that. And that's because we haven't had that in so long. Like I said with the earlier thing with UCL, why that Chelsea match, it was so intense. It's because we hadn't had it in so long. It's human nature. That's all it is. So I'm not really too worried about passion fading away or the culture dying down. We're not America. We're Napoli. Even Italia doesn't let their culture die down. No, it's not a part of who we are. No, it won't happen.
And I think you had a good point with when the Scudetto was raised, that maybe that's going to be a moment where it sort of unites the fan base. Because I think one of the things that's going on right now too with the fan base is that there's a division between, the ultras and the curva and the distinti and the tribuna. There's always been somewhat of a division, but I think it's more than it used to be. Because during the chanting against Larintis, which happened throughout the whole match, contrary to what some things have been said out there, it wasn't just at the beginning. It wasn't, just at the beginning of the second half. No, the
It
chanting
started
wasn't
in the
constant.
beginning, very
Yes,
beginning. Yeah,
but it was constant. It was sporadic, but it was still constant throughout the entire game.
yeah,
Um, when those chants were happening, the Stinti and the Tribuna were booing and hissing and whistling.
yeah,
So there's an obvious division between pro Laurentis and being against Laurentis. And I think that is pretty much the Curva against the Distinti and the Tribuna. So, I mean, maybe you're right, Mario. Listen to that Scudetto. Maybe people are going to just realize, hey, we're all the same. We just need to celebrate the Scudetto, and we just need to celebrate the fact that we have a great team now. So I hope that that's what happens, but I'm nervous that it's not. I'm nervous that it's just going to get worse, and I think that I don't
nah.
think that Laudintes himself.
Vibes will be too immaculate. Nobody will be thinking about
I
the
mean, people are going to
that stuff
celebrate
at
when the
that point.
Scudetto happens. People are going to celebrate when the Scudetto happens. I'm talking about like let's look and see what how things go next year. I think Laurentiis, I think he has an opportunity here to maybe try to do something, try to say something, try to open up lines of communication to try to make it seem like he's not always against everything that goes on in the stadium that isn't exactly how he wants it to be. He
Right, right,
wants
right.
it to be, as he calls, a family oriented atmosphere. He said that he doesn't really think that the ultras are needed, things like that. Maybe some of this stuff is going to open him up to realizing that the ultras are important, not the dumb stupid shit that they do, like fighting and any of the criminal activity that goes on, but the organization that they create in the stadium for chanting, the choreography that they did before, the flags and the banners, that stuff is part of the culture. So we'll have to see what happens, man. I hope you're right, but I'm not too confident that things are. I think they're going to get a little bit worse, and I think the culture in general is going to just gradually just change and change and change, and just become more like going to a football match in England. And Laurentiis has said that he likes that model. He likes the way it is. So we'll see what happens there. Uh, you have anything else to say about that? I mean, I don't know if I mentioned before the match by the subway stop, you could hear them from down near the tunnel area going into Mergelino. You could hear them. And I walked over there and started taking some video and just soaking that in. That was beautiful seeing that, and I just wish that they would have done the exact opposite. Do what you did in the stadium, outside the stadium, and what you did at the subway stop, take that into the stadium. Even if you're not allowed to bring flags and banners, bring that passion and that emotion
What does that
to the
change?
game for the
Just
players,
cheer, chant. I don't get it.
Yeah,
You're just being
yeah.
babies about it at this point, man.
All right, Monty. Well, that'll do it for this episode. And as always, Forza
Napoli. Sempre.
sempre.
Ciao.
Ciao.